okay, law school, and you talked about wanting to come to Michigan State University, but you're in Toronto at that point. So I guess what was the thought process behind going to the school in the United States as opposed to just kind of staying in Toronto, staying in Canada, and going to a law school there? Because obviously, for people who don't know, they do have law schools in Toronto, and obviously they have a legal system and judicial system and things like that.
So I was on the waiting list to go to University of Toronto Law School, which is the #1 law school in Canada and one of the top law schools in all of the world. Mind you, I was on the waiting list. And so it would have been really easy. And I think I was like number 4 or 5. So I definitely would have gone to University of Toronto at that time. But part of my calculation, and this goes back to what we were talking about before with our kids, I wanted to do sports. That is what I wanted to do. And so I was at the point in my life where I was 30, just graduated undergraduate, just got my undergraduate degree with a Bachelor of Sports Management, and I wanted to do sports. And so I did the pros and cons evaluation of going to University of Toronto or going to a law school in the States. And so the law schools that I got accepted to in the States were Syracuse, Marquette, Tulane, Michigan State. And you can see that all of those schools have either a really rich athletic program or have a really good sports law program. And so I was doing that balancing act, and I realized that if I were to go to University of Toronto, the opportunities to work in sports in Canada, I mean, the Canadian sports culture is exponentially smaller than that of the United States. And so to go to University of Toronto and then try to get into sports would have been maybe non-existent at the time, or the probability of that happening was really, really small. And University of Toronto doesn't have a rich athletic program. And so it would have been really difficult for me to break into my passion. Whereas if I were to go to Michigan State or Syracuse or Marquette or Tulane, the opportunity to get a law degree and work in sports was abundantly more apparent.
Right.
And so I decided to go to Michigan State. The reason was that they had a fantastic athletic program at the time. I mean, my first year at Michigan State football team went to the first ever college playoff. We had Tom Izzo. We got a rich athletic program there. I got a nice scholarship from Michigan State. My sister lived in Chicago, or still lives in Chicago. My parents were in Toronto. So Michigan State, East Lansing was literally right smack dab in the middle of both of them. And there's not to backtrack, but a lot of parents, a lot of Indian parents at that time were trying to persuade their kids to go to school in the United States because the opportunities of more lucrative jobs was much more abundant in the United States. For example, and I know what we're talking about. I was talking about sciences, but using lawyers as an example, a graduate in Toronto, a recent graduate from Toronto, would get a job articling in a law firm in downtown Toronto. Let's say it's one of the bigger law firms. You're only making like 80, 90,000 Canadian out of law school. Whereas when I came to Miami, the starting wages for an attorney right out of law school was 160,000 American. So the opportunity to make more money is certainly that opportunity is certainly in the United States rather than Canada. So, there was also that as well. So had I going to an American university provided more opportunity to make that kind of money because I was here in the United States. That being said, the opportunity to go to Michigan State, I certainly didn't plan and didn't want to stay in Michigan. And I love Michigan. It's my second home. And East Lansing is like my second home. And so, but I didn't want to be in Michigan. And so going to Michigan State, the opportunity, it's not like University of Michigan where, you go to University of Michigan Law School and then, you can go to any big law firm, any big city in the United States. And so wanting to differentiate myself in sports, I realized that I needed to go to a sports-centric school because I didn't want to just be, doing law in Michigan. I wanted to go outside of Michigan. So I went to Michigan State to do sports, and I wanted to translate sports into an opportunity to go somewhere else, maybe like New York or LA, to do sports